Well, as soon as I'm no longer limited by part limit and plot dimensions, I go and build my longest and most difficult tower yet. There's still about 5 building videos of Tower of the Planets to go, including this video, but not including the full playthrough, so the tower's about 66.666% done. Surely the OST progress isn't too far behind that. Ooh. Look, each song just takes so long to make, like genuinely the OST could take until like October or November until I'm done. But I have increased hope given that Earth Movement 2, which I finished about a week ago, took only like 10 days to make. But hey, of my limited OST progress, one of the finished songs is Time Lock 6, my favorite song of anything I've composed so far. And it just so happens that this is the song that will be playing during what I'm gonna build for today's video, the final 25% of the Saturn floor. And Gustav Holst's The Planet Suite, the movement for Saturn is called Saturn the Bringer of Old Age, and that makes me think of time, so the floor is themed about time, and it's also the longest floor at around 12 to 15 minutes. These are the 3 sections of the floor, and we'll be building the final one today. Deep inside Jupiter and Saturn is an ocean of metallic hydrogen, which is hydrogen under such pressure and heat that it conducts electricity like a metal. At the end of the Jupiter floor, there was a rising metallic hydrogen section, basically a rising lava section. Saturn is going to end with a similar section, but on Saturn it will be longer than was the case for Jupiter. The gameplay will take about 2.5 minutes to complete if you go full speed without falling, and the metallic hydrogen, which will insta-kill by the way, will take about 3 minutes 20 seconds to reach the top. Actually, exactly 3 minutes 20 seconds, since that's the length of the song. This will be the hardest section for the rest of the tower, because it's downhill from here on out. The remaining planets and moons will be shorter and easier. So with that, it's time to build Time Lock 6. So off camera, I finished up this part, which is kind of set up like a tower in that it like goes upwards. It doesn't have a frame or anything though, unless you count like this as the frame. Well, okay, I still need to add these as decoration and add these as decoration, like around the whole section. The Time Lock 6 part is going to be set up kind of like this, like it'll be going upwards. That way if you fall, you might land on a previous platform and hopefully not get cooked literally in, or would you get cooked in metallic hydrogen? I guess it is because it's like really hot. But yeah, I'm just gonna duplicate this. I may or may not use the whole height. I probably won't. I'll probably end up making this one shorter since the section is shorter, so it's gonna be shorter as in height. Not confusing at all, I know. And now I'm gonna duplicate the like concrete platform. You'll see these on all the outer planets since they don't have solid surfaces to stand on. So this is gonna substitute. I can center it by taking the X position of this. Not X position, but X position, which would be that, and I can copy that value and then select all of these. Then actually, let me group it into a model and set the X position of this model to that. It didn't even do anything. That was the pivot. That would explain why I didn't move it. There we go. Okay. Reason I grouped it into a model is because if I just set the positions of all these, like they'd all go to the same spot, and I don't want that. But anyway, now I can ungroup the model. Now we need the metallic hydrogen, which is this. It's actually a morpher, and the like animated texture is a beam. And this texture, by the way, is the Flood Escape 2 lava texture, but I like recolored it. And speaking of recoloring it, I'm probably gonna recolor it again to use it as like, even though it's supposed to be metallic hydrogen, which I guess would technically look the same color, I would still like it to sort of match the more yellow coloration of Saturn than the orange of Jupiter. So I'll probably recolor it again and like make a new decal, but for now it will just be the same decal. And I'm just moving this over a little bit, that way this can go like beyond here a little bit and not go into this area and mess everything up. I'm gonna Control X on the beam, that way it goes away so it's easier to see as I rescale this. But then I can just copy and paste it back. Or just paste it, I guess. It's already copied because I cut it. Okay, now go paste into, and I'm going to have to change some properties so this fits right. Now I could rescale this one too, but that would be way more annoying than just duplicating it, deleting all of these, naming this new morph, and setting its parent to be the button rather than like the whole morpher. Oh, I also want it to be transparency 1, and it's already can't collide false. I'll just go ahead and move this up like here. I'll change that position after I build all the gameplay. Over here, the idea was that you can't like see the bottom because of the fog end, so it looks like this just goes down forever. Here though, I would like you to be able to see the metallic hydrogen below, like even when it's at the lowest point. Because I mean, I guess you're going to see it soon enough anyway. I think about 75 studs moving this down will be good. Oh, and also I'm going to take this part with this like mesh texture. Thank you to this comment for telling me what this is called. Okay, I knew what mesh was when I did this last time. I just forgot. Yeah, basically the point of this is so that, like, it makes sense that the lava comes, like, straight through here instead of, I guess, like, spilling over the edge, which would be a huge pain to somehow make. I don't even know how I would do that other than, like, I don't know, making this, like, hundreds of thousands of parts, which would cause hundreds of thousands of other problems. So, yeah, and this looks cooler anyway, because you can see it below. And also, I'm going to take the morpher button and just, like, put that over here and make it be not invisible. It'll remain like this just for testing purposes. Alright, and I just put in like the bottom part of this elevator right here. And I also like took these poles and put them at the same relative position, so it's like they continued down from above. And so that would mean I'd also want this to face the same way. Actually, I guess I wouldn't have to, but whatever, I did that already. So okay, if you miss these next few jumps, you're dead, so I'll make them be pretty easy. Okay, I'd say this counts as pretty easy. And also, while we're here, we can test that this does work, which it should. Yeah, it is rising. Cool. I think we can start out with some, like, one stud pulls. Okay, I'll make it so you can actually jump to that, but like wraparounds, sort of. And let's mix in some like 45-degree angles, that's the wrong one, such as a wedge, not a cylinder, into the design here. So yeah, instead of a one stud pole normally, it'll be like a one stud wedge pole thing. Then we're going to put a 3x3 platform up here, so you can do that to get on top of there. I want you to see stuff that you saw over here, or like similar things, such as here, where like these two parts kind of go together on the spinning gear thing. I put this here. It just sort of shows that they like go together. So I'm gonna duplicate it and then just like bring it over here. That way it keeps its like color and transparency there. So these aren't like welded. This is named welded part, and it does have a weld constraint, but just rename it just part, since it doesn't need to be welded to anything. It just shows these sort of go together, I guess. There's a lot of words to explain something no one's even going to think about when they play through this. Well, one thing was important, and that's that I wanted some things to be, like, familiar from this section. For instance, these things, and also the fact that just all universal parts are spinning parts for this floor. But these things, which are also seen during the first part, which is the rings, they spin kind of like this. They're beginner spinning weld platforms, because that's just what I like copy pasted them from, since it is a part welded to like a central invisible spinner thing. That way it rotates around, not the center of this. And I also just made it a 2-in-1 spinner, so there's actually two cylindrical constraints. They're somewhere. But does this look like perhaps the hands of a clock? On the second part, they spun faster than on the first part, and on the third part, I want them to spin faster than on the second. We'll use some mechanics that were on the previous part, and also some new ones, if you can even really call them mechanics, because one of them is going to be just head hitters, exactly like this, like same spacing and everything, and with that thing. Another thing that was on the previous section were trusses, or was trusses, because thing was singular. These will also be good for going upwards. I forgot to put the neon there, which I'm actually using one part, since I can, which would explain what's going on here. But yeah, this is a good way to go upwards, which I guess you would need given the rising metallic hydrogen. We'll have you like do a bunch of truss flicks alternating between like 3 different poles like this. So just extend them up somewhere. The heights are going to be different at some point anyway, but just do that. And then with my move snap to grid to 1, I'll just like maybe do this. And you know what, maybe so I can actually see them, I will make them transparency 0.6 temporarily. You still can't see them. Well, okay, if I look at it from this angle, you can, because of the way the lighting is. I also want to make sure I don't make all the trusses the exact same size, so if I set my move snap to grid to 2 to resize them, that will add some nice variation as well. But I don't want any of them to be like this, because then it doesn't have like the diagonal thing, and that looks ugly, because none of the other ones are like that. Alright, I'd say that's enough vertical mobility for now. So now I want to resize all of the regular parts so that they fit the new positioning of the trusses. Again, the height of them doesn't really matter because it's going to be changed anyway. I'll probably make some jumps go on top of there. There we go. Now select all the transparent ones and make them be not transparent. Alright, so if you fall, I want you to like have a good chance to land on something below, which at the moment is not happening. So I'm gonna make like a catching platform thing, but not just a catching platform because that's boring. Instead, I'm gonna use a mechanic I used earlier in the tower, specifically on Jupiter, which was this. I actually built this off camera, so if you've never seen this, that would explain that. It's basically a no-jump platform, and so the inlets are can't collide false, and yeah, it's basically like a maze sort of thing. It's going to be a larger platform on what I'm about to build, and probably a lot more complicated, so you better not go too slow. And here I used it like as a catching platform too, above most of the jumps of this like maze of wraparounds type thing. above here. So let me select the supports and the like main catching platform, which is the no jump thing, as well as one of these parts and one of these parts. Didn't really use a lot of space like here yet, so I'm going to put it here, and I'd like to sort of use the lower down space that I also didn't use, but since there's rising metallic hydrogen, I can't really go down too much. And if it's down too much, then that kind of ruins the functionality of this catching platform somewhat, because I mean, if it's like already below the rising metallic hydrogen like 10 seconds after you finish it, it doesn't really help that much. Guess I'll position this like here. Besides, it adds some stuff in this area because of these support platforms, which, by the way, need to extend all the way down. And now select everything again, and change the color too. Although, I think it would be kind of cool if I had, like, the platforms slowly change in color, like, as you continue to, like, red, which I'm also probably going to do with the fog end as well, make that slowly change to a redder color as well, which also just so happened to be a thing during the rising metallic hydrogen on Jupiter. Alright, so this is going to be a larger catching platform, like this I think should be good. Okay, and now we need a way you will get onto here. So you're going to go off of here and onto here, and then off of here onto here, but I don't want you to be able to skip over some of the walls, so I'm going to put a big wall that will be like this, and probably would look nice if I did this, but then that would cause Z fighting. It's not a bug, it's a feature. Well, that doesn't... Never mind. That doesn't really work here because I'm not using the thing I just said I didn't like, which was Z fighting. It's instead leading me to remove it in a way that will be a feature that had the issue not existed at all, I would not have made. That made no sense? Okay, cool. Basically, instead of the supports being like one stud over like this and without the thing above, like right on the corner like that, it will instead be over a little bit, and I guess only on one axis, which looks fine. And these will extend all the way up too, which is nice. Let me just duplicate these and move them over to the sides so I can copy and paste off of there. By the way, this isn't going to be a maze, so there's not going to be any like incorrect routes you could take that'll waste time, except for perhaps one that'll just waste you like less than a second probably. Okay, actually there's nothing like that over here, but like say this inlet was instead right here, and going in here thus led nowhere. I might do something like that, because you could just like go back and you wouldn't have wasted any time. Also, to make it easier to kind of see where the inlets are, I'm gonna make them a different color as well. We'll make them darker. Of course, when you play it, it's gonna be different lighting effects than like the studio view. But yeah, I think that's a good difference. I also want to resize this like green thingy so it goes like closer to the edge, specifically on the top and on the bottom of here. Now, frames are basically text boxes, but without the text. So we're going to see some similar properties such as size. And so when you see like the 4 numbers like this and like the brackets and with the comma like that, this is called a udim2 value. So it's 2 values related to X, scale and offset, 2 values related to Y, scale and offset. What scale is it's a value from 0 to 1, which is like how much of the way across it is. So like 0.9 would be 90% of the way across. If I set that to 1, you can see it goes all the way across. If I set it to 0.5, you can see it goes halfway across. It's still centered though. Offset, on the other hand, is absolute, so it will remain the same no matter how large the part you're working with is. And so changing this by 1, you probably didn't see anything because it is only 1 pixel. Anyway, we're just going to deal with the size value. If I set them both to 0.9 like that, it's a different amount of space because it's a different like length across because it's not a square. Now, most people would just like change this number and then get it close enough. No, I'm going to get it mathematically perfect. Okay, let's start with the X value, which is the Z value of the scale here. So just see how many studs that is across. 28. Okay. I want to leave 1 stud of a difference here. So that means I need it to be 26 out of 28. So in other words, this number I need to be equal to 26 divided by 28, which is a decimal, which means I can't get it exactly perfect, but I can round it. So it'll be what is probably closer than if I just eyeballed it. You can see that looks like a stud. And if I check the size in the X direction on here, which would be 38. And so to find out what I want to set this to be, I would do 36 divided by 38, which is about 0.95. By the way, each time I changed that, I had the other one selected. No, I didn't. I had something else selected. Oh, no. Yep, here it is. Oh, boy. Okay, just copy this, find the one that's actually on the bottom, which is this one. Go paste into, and I can Control X to get rid of it and copy it. Whoa. Then select the one I deleted the other one from, and now that is correct, and like the others. Or, I guess, like the one on its opposite side. But there we go. Okay. Another thing I want to set up to build this no-jump thing is something on the sides, like where you could walk around. I could just do that, but that looks ugly. So instead I'll do like a wedge or something. So I go 2 studs over and then scale wedges like that. And I guess I'll make them can collide false to ensure you can't like what's it called, wall walk around here and then somehow around the edge. A 2 stud stick out walk around is definitely not possible, but a 2 stud stick out wedge wall walk, while very difficult, is technically still possible. So I may as well go with the impossible one. Of course, taking the intended route would literally be easier, but hey. Alright, and here is our maze thing. Okay, and I just confirmed you can actually do the route too, so I didn't, like, accidentally make it impossible. Okay, so you can just, like, step off onto there, and I'll do similar to the other trusses over here in terms of what this truss looks like, and I can actually copy and paste this, that way I don't have to set my move snap degree to, like, 0.25 and stuff. It should just be lined up already with, like, going inside the truss like that. Since this is the only truss here, I can just scale this to fit exactly. I'm going to move this down just a little bit though, just to be sure you can still like jump off of here. You probably could from where it was, but that should just make that easier, because it's going to be a little bit more difficult now because you can't go like on top of the truss, you can only climb up to the top of it. So you basically just like turn shift lock on and do that, then you get your jump back. Alright, I just timed everything I've built so far, and it takes about a minute, so about a minute and a half to go. What I'm going to build now is parkour like above here, because if it was a while before you go back over this, then the safety net is useless, because by then the metallic hydrogen will have risen above this. So I put in another one of these things, and we're just going to go back over here. Now do keep in mind, if you land like right here, you're going to have to redo the whole thing again. There are 2 possible solutions that I think would work well. One would be do something like this, because like I'm planning to have the parkour go over here, but then like what's even the point of this since this is now the safety net? Okay, so actually I will do option B, which is like a button that'll just like let you shortcut through the whole thing after you complete it once. So I'm actually going to replace this part with a button. So this is what you're actually going to do this head hitter for, but it actually is more of a stick out head hitter thing because it's larger. Okay, so I should probably make this button smaller then. Currently it does nothing, but it will activate something where you go back over here. I thought maybe I could put a part like down here, maybe that would be button activated, but still, like what if you land in the middle somewhere, then you still got to redo like most of it. What if I make it activate like something like this maybe? Then I can make it go like all the way around these like supports as well, that way it doesn't cause Z fighting like on like the walls like this one. I'll leave a stud space here, that way I think that should prevent you from like clipping your foot through and then hitting the jump remover, like if you fall from like way up here. Of course you wouldn't be, because by the time you would fall from there, the metallic hydrogen would be above it anyway, but if it works here, it'll work from below that, which it looks like it does, so we're good. So that's gonna mean you can just like step over all these now since they're short enough, even though you can jump anyway, so yeah. But we're gonna do some more jumps. Most of them are not gonna be button activated, but this one will be. So those 3 things are what's gonna be activated by this. The rest of the platforms that I can put above here, as long as you can't get to them without this being here, they don't have to be button activated. Alright, so at this point you're gonna go off of where the safety net was, so I hope you enjoyed the few jumps you had over that. Right here seems like a perfect spot for this truss thing to continue. It's just more trusses on the same pole. Wow. It has come to my attention that there are nowhere near enough spinners. I've taken a spinning part over to here because I want to make one of these geared things like be spinning on their own. The ones here, they're actually tilting platforms, so you have to like push them, hence the X thing. So let me just delete this part, and then I guess I'll just copy and paste off of here because this one doesn't have a whole bunch of modifications to it. The only thing I would have to do is just rotate it, which is easy enough. Uh-oh, I lost where it was, because it's only one invisible stud at the moment. Here it is. Let me just get like right next to it so it takes up most of my screen so I can easily find it again as I bring this over here. Okay, so we have the spinning platform with the tilting platform here. Let me just do that and delete this client object because I don't need it, and ungroup this model. And this has the hinge constraint. It was the invisible part of the tilting platform, but wherever this is. What? I didn't actually center it apparently. Well, it's supposed to be wherever that hinge constraint part was a moment ago. Now in main, which is the main circle of this gear, make this be attachment 1. Actually, the name doesn't matter, but it just makes this easier. There. Should be able to do that, and I think it should spin now. I have successfully made a gear that spins on its own. And also, I definitely need to change where the pivot is. Let me change it to the position of this instead. Select the position of that, go to here, and world pivot, just paste in the location of there. There we go. Also, as it just mirrors, it's still not centered. Let's find out. If I take the main and select its position, then select the invisible thing, you can see it moved. Okay, so it's very much not. Now just paste that there, okay? And select the whole model, and that's gonna mean I want to change this too. Alright, now that should be right, except that it doesn't seem to be rotated 0 degrees, even though it's telling me it is. But you know what, that's fine. It doesn't really matter since it's spinning on that axis anyway. Okay, actually, I want this spinner here. That way there's not 2 spinners in a row. Now move this back to where it was, roughly. And this will instead be the thing I move elsewhere. How about up here? And we now have another gear here, but I don't want them to spin at the same speed. Let's go -2, so a little bit slower and the other direction. New client object idea. We need some more vertical mobility again. We did some with these elevator jumps, which are a client object I didn't use anywhere else on this floor, so that'll be a new thing introduced during this section, I guess. But for some more vertical mobility, let's do something similar to this, which is on Tower of Rage. We're not going to copy that exactly, though. Instead, it's going to be, like, attached to this spinning gear. So I just duplicated this part, and then just moved it here. The weld constraint should still be welding it, yeah. And I also changed the 2, like, sides that aren't universal to be universal. Don't know why there's a slight misalignment. So I think I was trying to align to the height of that. Well, there, I fixed it. Okay. So let's go up, like, 4 studs at a time. Just make sure I hold Alt when I try to drag move so that it doesn't do that. Ooh. Okay, so I think I somehow got these like flipped over. Not really sure how that happened. But if I just take the center part and flip, well, I'm not gonna know if I do that. That's why I haven't noticed it yet. Okay, try it on this one. Hold Alt, select that, rotate 180 degrees. There we go. Okay. Okay, now just do that to all these other spinners, which is only 2, so that's easy. Because I'm probably going to be copy and pasting from just the ones that are just like that, rather than with, like, modifications, such as what is the case for this, which I can now properly test. So probably the best thing to do is just wait for that side to come around. That way it's easier to jump to here than trying to jump, like, between those, although you could do that too, I guess, if the lava's right about to get to you. Or, I mean, metallic hydrogen. Okay, you can kind of jump up 2 at a time. I think I should nerf that a little bit by slowing down the spin speed. How about this is where the tops of these truss poles are? Or you know what, I can do one more ladder flick. I'll do, like, one here. We'll make it be, like, 2 trusses like that with this on top of here. And so you jump here, 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 here. Probably need to lower that a little bit. But then you could just ladder flick straight up there. Okay, fine. Do that, so now you'll ladder flick up here and up to there. Now, I can't just extend this because this thing is here, so that would look bad. So let me just duplicate it instead. And I just added some wedges as well for some more decoration. Clock time. Take the clock model from the previous part of the floor and put it on a wall and make it big! Now take the spinners that resemble the hands of a clock and rotate them. Make the minute hand spin 12 times faster than the hour hand because it makes 24 rotations a day while the hour hand only makes 2. Build some parkour leading to a button. Make the button activate a bunch of stuff. Also make it deactivate some things, including the clock hands. Make it activate hands that don't spin so it's like the hand stops so you can get on top of the clock. Alright, and I have timed the floor once again, and it is, in fact, about 2.5 minutes now. So, as good of a safety net this would be, it's only going to be a safety net for, like, whatever the escape route thing is. Not really sure what that's going to be yet. It might be like a ladder or something. What is the case at the end of the rising metallic hydrogen on Jupiter is the fog end slowly decreases, so by the time you get to the end, which is here, it will do this. Like, you sort of just, like, ride that conveyor into the fog, I guess, because the fog end's like very low by the time you get to here. So I'll decide what I want to do over here after I see like the decreasing fog end and stuff in action here. So to create like a transition as you ride down this elevator, there is a lighting changer here, which is just before like the actual teleporter. Now on this elevator, it'll do like a fade to black transition like that, and then it'll just teleport you to here. This, while it's meant to look like the morpher, is just a regular part. I could make it so it like moves down, like you see it come to a stop, but I didn't really see a point in doing that. Instead, it then sets the lighting effects, which at the moment are the same as they are on the section before this. Now, what I would like to do is like start it as something like this or similar to it, and then it will slowly decrease the fog end and become like more red, I guess. Except if I were to just like set this lighting changer to like slowly decrease the fog end and like make the fog color like slowly redder over the course of say 100 seconds, then it's going to transition to that from like the black screen, which is actually a fog color black and fog end of 0. So that wouldn't really be the effect I'm going for. My best option probably is to make this, unlike the other like elevator destination things, this will actually be a morpher that's moving down. So here's how we're going to do that. First, I'm just going to move these out of the way, and I'm also going to delete that because I'm instead just going to copy and paste the morpher from up here. Okay, so let me line this up so that this thing is right there because that's like the morpher destination. All right, I just changed some timings on this and moved it like closer to here. That way it's just like a quick little animation thing. Like you'll barely even notice it probably, but it will be important for getting the lighting effects to work right. You'd think that wouldn't have anything to do with that, but it will. You'll see. Yeah, so you'll get teleported like onto there and it'll just move down like this. Yeah. I set the easing direction of this to be out, unlike in like it was for the other one. With it set to out, that means it's gonna suddenly start moving and then come to a slow stop at the bottom. Whereas if it were set to in, it would slowly begin moving and then come to a sudden stop. That's what I have it set for the other ones, since you can't see that sudden stop because the screen is faded to black by the time it does that. So we're basically doing the inverse of that here. So this lighting changer will like unfade the screen. So by the time it's unfaded enough to see what's happening, this will already be moving. So it won't be slowly speeding up, which is what we want because it's as though it were coming down this whole elevator. Like, why would it just like randomly stop just before the end and then continue down? And I also want to put the teleported destination right here. Now what I'm going to do is duplicate this lighting changer and put this where the other lighting changer used to be. And now this is where I will make it like slowly become a red fog color. Not as red as was the case for Jupiter. We're going to do like that. Actually, maybe make it more saturated. And we'll make the ambient be this color. It was previously this. And over the course of, I guess, 200 seconds, which is the length of the song, 3 minutes, 20 seconds, which, as I said previously, is how long this is going to take to rise all the way to the top. So I guess let's see that in action, all the way from up here. All right, so we start at the end of this. You will walk onto this elevator, and then it will do the fade to black, then unfade, and it will look pretty much the same, but this will slowly begin changing the fog color. So I'm just going to speed up the footage here so that you can see it in action because obviously it's going pretty slow, 200 seconds, but yeah. Alright, so remember how I finished all the parkour and it takes 2.5 minutes to complete it? Well, turns out I'm nowhere near done with the parkour. What ended up happening is that there was actually too much vertical mobility, or rather too much inconsistency of it. Ideally, throughout the whole section, you would be ascending at roughly the same rate. As I mentioned, the time it takes for the metallic hydrogen morpher to move is 3 minutes 20 seconds, the length of the song, meaning that number can't be changed. However, the speed the morpher moves can still be changed if I change its start and or end point. If it's gotta move a further distance, it will move faster. This is what causes an inconsistent ascension rate to be problematic. During the first half of the section, you don't gain much height, but in the second half, you do. The second half means there is a lot of total distance the metallic hydrogen must travel, and while its speed may be okay during the second half since you're also ascending so fast, during the first half, the fast rise rate makes it either way more difficult than I want, or straight up impossible. So basically, I spent a while making a ton of changes to the gameplay, not adding a ton, but moving around what was already there as well as modifying it a little bit. What I did add, though, was pretty similar to the rest of the section, and I didn't introduce any new client objects. It was still a huge balancing act of how fast you ascend, and while the overall consistency still isn't perfect, it does work, and it's not too difficult either. Here's the finished gameplay, and like before, it takes 2.5 minutes to complete if you go full speed without falling. The metallic hydrogen reaches the final platform after around 3 minutes 15 seconds, which is 5 seconds shorter than the song, but that's actually fine since the song will start when you teleport here, which is about 5 seconds before you actually hit the morpher, so it still evens out. Oh, also, the metallic hydrogen morpher does have an easing direction of out, so during these last few jumps, it's rising a little bit slower than it is the rest of the time. But that just leaves the last thing I want to do in this video, and it relates to detail. Remember how earlier, when I said there weren't nearly enough spinners, so then I added these? Well, there still aren't. Basically, I want the section to feel a lot more alive, with lots of moving parts and stuff. So some of these will be related to the gameplay, and some of them not. Take a look at this, which I built off camera. When you do that, you can see like the gameplay sort of does that. It like appears when you press invisible buttons, which are right here. One of those was a regular button that activated the actual parkour. One was a morpher that caused this to move. Basically, we're going to do a lot of stuff like that. And so basically, I'm going to put a ton of those throughout the gameplay, and probably also just a whole bunch of spinners off to the side that don't actually affect the gameplay, but they just add more movement to everything. Okay, so how about we start with this thing? With a morpher, I can't really make a whole bunch of parts move at once unless every part is its own morpher, so that doesn't really work. So I'd have to do like things that are their own singular parts, such as this. So here's what we're gonna do. Step 1, take morpher. Step 2, delete the reset button because I won't need that. Step 3, delete the button base. Okay, never mind, I'm not going to put these on steps. Delete these things, make this invisible and can collide false. Actually, I'm going to make it semi-transparent for now, just so I can see where it is. So when do I want this to appear? Probably when you jump right here. Okay, so now I need to take this part, which is not a client object at the moment. I'm just going to name it new morph, because this is the location it's going to end up being in. Set its parent to that. That's actually going to put it inside this part, and I just want it inside the button model. Now duplicate it, rename it morph, and make this just be inside the whole morpher rather than inside the button. And now make the modifications to this so that it is how it will be before you press this button. So probably just hide it inside this part here. So now let's see that in action. Oh wait, also I need to make this invisible. That's kind of important. Okay, now let's see it in action. Currently there's nothing there. Well, I will have to do a morpher with that probably. And you can see it just sort of appears. Nice. Actually, I'm not going to make this be a separate morpher. What I can do is actually what I could probably do for these, which is since they're not changing sizes, they're just moving. Well, this one is changing size, but if no more than one changes size, and I can actually just weld this to here. So we're going to give this the appropriate name of welded part. We're going to put welded part inside the whole morpher model, and then weld it to morph. And also unanchor that. Now that will move with that. Okay, so I can basically use welds to make these things move as well. Anything where I add decoration by adding like wedges so it's like it's falling apart. Oh, and of course the last step is to just make that transparent, and I already made it can collide false, I think. Yeah, I did. Much time has now passed and everything is now finished. While it may not look like it in the studio view, there are lots of morpher buttons around, such as one right here, which will activate a part right here, and many more, and also a bunch of other spinners and stuff like off to the side. They can collide false, or at least they should be. Yeah, not that it matters, because you can't really jump to them anyway. They're just for decoration. And I made the escape route. I decided to go with this elevator thing that I've used on previous floors. And I also made a new decal for this that better fits the color scheme of this section. The first one I made is, of course, still in use over here. So that just leaves one thing left for this video, and that's showing you this entire section start to finish. So the previous part ends where you go onto this elevator thing, and after a few seconds, the screen will fade to black, and you will get teleported to here. And as soon as you can just walk out of the elevator and begin. Alright, so there's some like easy enough jumps there, and there was the first of the many morphers, spinners, more morphers here. That one's also a morpher. There's one here too. Okay, might as well not point them all out since I'm apparently not even looking at them. Also, you did not see me fall, definitely. Here you have a bunch of trusses. Yeah, it's not that exciting, I guess. But here you want to jump to there, and then as you do this wrap around, I guess I pointed out another morpher thing. Oh, there's another one. And would you look at that, more trusses. You saw nothing. Oh, would you look at that, another morpher. Okay, here on the spinner, you want to just jump up these. You can go up two at a time. It's kind of difficult though, so probably just do one at a time is easier. As you can see with these many times I keep falling, so far the rising metallic hydrogen hasn't been too much of a problem. I'm not gonna point it out, I'm not gonna point it out, not gonna point it out, not gonna point. Oh, okay, look, basically if you're not a snail and you don't fall a million times, assuming you survive on those falls, you'll probably be fine. This was originally that no jump section. Instead I moved it later and just put like conveyors around there. Let's hope pausing for commentary doesn't end up causing that to happen. As I was saying, this was previously the no jump section, but now it's just like a safety net with a bunch of conveyors, so if you're not careful, you could like have that happen. You wouldn't have no clip in an actual run though, obviously. So yeah, you have a safety net for like a few jumps, and now it's gone. And here are some falling parts, and this is a tilting platform, so it'll like spin like that. Oh yeah, and that thing will like move up, that way hopefully you'll take a look at this clock, because before, if you're just like looking down, as you probably are, you won't really see it. Okay, if you make it on top of this clock, I've tested several times, like once the metallic hydrogen gets to like right here, as I was saying, if you get to here and the metallic hydrogen is like way down there still, like it is at this point, you're probably good as long as you don't go too slow. So that means I could even stop for a second to say that. Okay, here's an elevator section. Originally two different elevator sections, but then I had to combine them because of the way I ended up modifying the gameplay from how it originally was. Oh, look at that, more falling parts. Going up in a spiral circle thing, and would you look at that, it's the no jump thing. So I made it shorter, and so like for instance, you don't even go over there, even though there are those like can collide false walls. They're all there already, so like I may as well just leave them instead of just leaving empty space. There we go. That was the first of those morpher things that I actually added, despite it being quite late in the section, and there are a few more here. Now, not much more vertical mobility is to be gained here, but don't worry, it begins rising slower because of the easing direction of out. Oh, yeah, there's actually things at stake here if I fall in the lava and die, because then I have to replay all of it. So let's hope exactly that. Oh my gosh. By the way, I don't know why that morpher button is doing that, but it looks kind of cool, so it's not a bug, it's a feature. Going at about the rate that you would go to reach the end in 2.5 minutes, this is where the lava is when you're at the end here. But like I said, even though it looks like it's pretty close, it goes slower and slower until it reaches the top, which is about right here, like of its movement because of its easing direction of out. So when you get here, you can just stand here and wait if you want to for some reason. Probably don't though, just so you don't die like that would be a sad way to end your run. Because like I said, it gets easier from here on out. So like once you complete that, maybe you've basically won the tower. I don't really know yet because I haven't built the rest of the tower. Well, that's going to conclude the video. Interestingly, this is one of the longest of this series so far, and yet I built like the shortest amount of gameplay of any of the videos, I'm pretty sure. So I went a lot more in depth of what I was building in this video. Something you're probably not going to see again because this video I made across like 5 days as opposed to like 2 to 3 I usually do for the other ones. Nonetheless, if you liked this more in-depth video, let me know. Thanks for watching again. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and join the Discord because it exists. And I'll see you in the next video, and have a great day.